Hey guys, welcome to Creative Entrepreneur. Today we have a great guest for you. We're going to be talking about building a team and scaling your business. You don't want to miss this episode, so stay tuned.
Coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. Welcome to The Creative Entrepreneur, a podcast created to help entrepreneurs build their business. Branding, marketing, analytics, positioning, and lead generation, plus interviews with other business owners to learn from their successes and failures. Now, here is your host, Abel Garza.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Creative Entrepreneur. Today we have a great guest for you. We have Paul Maskill. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Abel. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm great to have you on the show today because I want to talk about your expertise in team building and scaling your business. So why don't you start out by giving me some information as to who you are, what you do, and how you help your customers?
Yeah, so I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I live here with my wife, Angela. We got a 3-year-old daughter. She keeps us busy. And I really, focus on helping small business owners go through exactly what I went through and so they can get to where they really want to go. So, the quick story on me is I left my corporate job, started my own business because that's what I always want to do. I want to be self-employed, want to be my own boss, didn't like the corporate world. And then before I knew it, I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. My business was running me. I loved what I was doing every single minute. I loved the business. It was way better than sitting in a cubicle. But what I realized was if I got hit by a bus, and that was the question I asked myself, what happens to my business, to my family, to my customers, my employees? What happens to everybody around me if I got hit by a bus? This business would go to zero really quickly.
Absolutely.
So really, I was just like everybody else. I still am just like everybody else, but I was so scared to delegate. The business was my baby. Nobody could do it as well as I could. Until I remembered back when I quit my job. So when I quit my job, everybody told me, you're crazy. What are you doing? This is, that's the safest thing. That's silly that you're going to go start a business. That's risky. But to me, the worst case scenario was if it doesn't work, I can just go get another job. So it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So when it came to building a team and delegating and, really kind of duplicating myself, it was, if I delegate this to somebody and it doesn't work, that task is just going to come back to me. And it's already with me anyway. So I might as well try it because I really don't have anything to lose. So that's what I really help business owners do on a day-to-day basis is, figure out where they want to go and then help them put the systems, processes, and people in place to build a business that will allow them to do that.
Absolutely. Well, there's, you look at the way business works and there's just so many scenarios. There's so many different types of businesses. And I'm almost certain that everything is not just in a blueprint and it's all the same for every single business. How do you approach that? What is the first thing that you look for when you're trying to help a business understand how they can possibly scale and build their business further?
Yeah. So, really, to me, what I realized after the fact was it really comes down to what is your vision? Why did you start your business in the first place? So for me, I realized I didn't really have a vision after I started my business. My big vision, once I set foot in that cubicle after a couple of weeks, was I want to be my own boss. And once I quit my job after 3.5 years, I had finally done that. I became my own boss. I was self-employed. I had my own business and I thought I had made it. And I thought that was it. This is what we're going to do. And I'm just going to keep this business going. So, what I realized was 1, that's not sustainable. 2, it's going to burn you out. But really, once I figured out where do I really want to go and why did I start this business anyway? Then that made it a lot easier to make those decisions, take out the emotion of, yes, it is my baby, but maybe somebody else could do it if I could teach them, and kind of going through all those mindset issues that we have as business owners, because it is our baby. We did start it. We're vested more than anybody. But when you get really clear on your vision and know exactly where you want to go, then it's my belief that let's build a business that will enable you and empower you to go do that. Whatever it is you want to do in this world, travel, spend more time with family.
So question whether or not you even want to scale is really the question. Some people are perfectly happy with just being a one-man show. So if you want to scale, if you get to that point, and I run into this a lot actually with a lot of business owners, is that they are stagnant and they get to a point where they want to build their business, but they don't know how. They want to scale it, but they don't know how. Is it a matter of building a team? Is it a matter of marketing more? Is it a matter of building or even outsourcing their work to allow them to focus more on building the business rather than the everyday mundane stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, so I usually just kind of do like a time audit with everybody. So if someone comes to me and says, I'm stuck, I can't scale my business. And then what is the reason that? And usually it's, I'm just too busy. I don't know where to start. I don't have enough time. I got all this. So, really I'd start breaking it down based on, well, where are you spending your time? And there's probably things that you could outsource, delegate, automate to somebody else or something else for a lot cheaper than what your time's worth. Because I find way too many business owners doing $10 an hour tasks that somebody else could do if they just train them. So we waste a lot of time. That's what human beings do. So I tell everybody there's 168 hours in the week. If you sleep for 8 hours a night, which is way more than any American does, but if you slept for 8 hours a night, that's 56 hours. So you're awake 112 hours. So what do you do during that time you're awake is going to determine your success. And a lot of times we're just doing things that either we shouldn't be doing altogether because we as business owners don't have a boss to hold us accountable. So we'll chase the bright, shiny object. Or we're doing things that somebody else could do, whether it's responding to emails, answering the phone, whatever service you're in, whatever product you're selling, there's plenty of tasks that you're doing. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. So that's usually where I start, is just really auditing. How are you spending your time right now?
So we here at Graybug Photography, that's our business here. When it comes down to editing photos, there's always that possibility of outsourcing that stuff out. So, if we do 500 or 600 headshots, it's much faster really to have a 10-person team in India or Vietnam or wherever we decide to send our photos to do it, and then focus on getting additional jobs in addition to that. So that's great that you're able to identify those key areas, particularly those that are $10 an hour type jobs. When you're looking to build a team, do you include your team? Do you include team members as people that are outsourced?
Yeah. So, I mean, really I don't have one way or another. It's really what kind of business do you want to build? And to your point, if you're in the photography business and you have 10 great VAs that work in the Philippines or Vietnam, you don't need to make them employees. When you can get just as good a work quicker, better, cheaper, fast, all those things, instead of bringing somebody in-house that you might have to pay $10, $15, $20 an hour. When you can find those great VAs who are, definitely less expensive, that just enables you to trade more time to them. So then you can go do more things. So if you're in photography, your biggest moneymaker is probably when you are taking pictures and not editing them, not returning phone calls, not doing emails, not doing scheduling. If all you had to do was show up and take pictures, you would probably make several $100s per hour at least, which allows you to do that. So then you can figure out, well, what do I really want to do? What kind of team do I need? And maybe if you always want to take pictures, that's okay. So, what I really tell everybody, whatever business you're in, you need to be reinvesting into some sort of asset. That asset can be humans. That's a big, building a team. It could be systems. It could be some piece of technology that you're investing, or it could be something totally else. So if you're making several $100s an hour taking pictures, and you don't want to really build a team and you have some VAs, then I just encourage everybody to take that excess earnings and reinvest it into some other asset. It could be real estate. It could be other businesses. It could be something that will then kind of build your wealth and build that nest egg and build kind of that security blanket if something did happen to you. Because if you get hit by a bus and you can't take pictures and you're the business, you're going to need something there to help you get through that. So that's really what I encourage you. It really depends on where people want to go. As long as you're reinvesting into something, if you follow kind of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, if you're on the E or the S side, there's nothing wrong with that being employee or self-employed, but you also want to be putting some of your money into the business owner, the investor side as well, so that you build wealth.
Do you look at the financials? Do you look at the financial benefit, or do you strictly look at the benefit of hiring that individual? Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, it really, yeah. So, I mean, it has to make sense financially. But at the same time, you have to be willing to invest in somebody and not look for an immediate return. So I recommend everybody, if you can afford at least 6 months of whatever their salary, whatever their pay is going to be, do it, because that basically buys you 6 months to get them up to speed, which you'll do it a lot quicker, because that's going to improve your efficiency. It's going to increase your capacity. So I do look at the financials of it. The other part of that, which a lot of people don't look at, is the personal financial side. I see way too many business owners that are just taking too much money out of their business and then they can invest in something. They say, well, I just don't know what to do. I'm all maxed out. Well, you've got $10,000 a month in personal expenses going out that you could probably cut in half. And then you could take that $5,000 extra, invest it in people to then build your wealth, kind of that short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain.
Wow. That's something that I think a lot of people don't even think about, because it's all about, what happens is, especially like in sales, you make a lot of money one month and then the next month it's slow. And then it fluctuates so much. So the vicissitudes of your cash flow can really be hindered by your spending. And so, being able to reinvest that money, or at least keep a good amount of money on the side so that you can build your business, is great advice. What are some of the challenges that you find many of the companies you work with face?
Yeah. So, usually, first I see if they have a viable product, viable service. Okay. You're a photographer. That's viable because there's hundreds of them out there. I know you can do this if you're good at it. I can't help you become a better photographer, but I can help you run a better business. So, usually the biggest problem they face is really the mindset of, hey, I can delegate. They'll give me every single excuse in the book of why they can't. They don't have money. They don't have this. But really, it's just a mindset thing that they really kind of need to get over. And it usually goes back to, well, what is your vision? A photographer would be just like me. It's like, hey, I want to do this full time. And then you do it full time. And then you realize it starts to consume you. So I would say that's number one. And then number two, right behind it would be knowing your numbers. We make too many decisions based on emotion and not numbers. Numbers allow us to take that emotion out of it. So when the numbers are telling you, hey, this is the right decision or this is the wrong decision, listen to that. Too many business owners say, I think this will work, or I feel this is the right way to go. Well, what did the numbers say? So not just knowing your P&L and, and your balance sheet and all that, but also knowing what are the key performance indicators in your business. If you need to make $10,000 a month, how many clients is that? Okay. So you need to have 20 clients at $500 each or whatever it is. Okay. Well, if you need 20 clients, how many inquiries do you need to have? What is your kind of conversion rate? And then it makes it a lot easier to determine, what do I need to do on a daily basis to hit that number? Well, I need to go talk to more people, or I need to work on my website, or I need to get more people from my website onto my email list. Whatever it is, it makes it a lot easier when you know your numbers, because then you're not really guessing. The numbers are telling you what is working and what's not.
That's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people don't think about that. And it also includes the projects that you're working. So if you're doing headshots, you're doing weddings, or you're doing other types of photography, and this, I'm using photography as an example, then you can identify whether or not that's even a viable option. If you're spending $2,000 to do this wedding, because you're hiring other people and you're not making enough money, or you're not making as much money as you would doing headshots, then the numbers will tell you whether or not you should go that direction. And I think a lot of people don't look at that. I think they find it is like, okay, when we made $2,000 or $3,000 on a wedding, but they didn't look at the part where they spent $1,500 or $2,000 to get that job. Either whether it was advertising or equipment, rentals, or other photographers and videographers, whatever the case may be. I think that is a big issue. And when you bring that up, is that part of the accounting process? Is that just the process that you have in place, where you just do an overall audit, so to speak, of the business before they even start to delve into scaling?
Yeah. So, you're spot on. So knowing, your gross profit margin, which is basically the revenue minus cost of goods sold or cost of goods delivered. If you're charging $4,000 for a wedding, but you got to spend $3,000 in, contractors or subcontractors that help you shoot this wedding. And then you got to, so, okay, we made $1,000 out of $4,000. That's a 25% gross profit. It's not really great in the service-based world. But the other thing that probably most people or all people don't account for is how much time does it take you to then make that $1,000. So you're at the wedding all day, because you got to kind of babysit this. And then you got to babysit the brides. And then you got to do all the edits that they're asking for. And then you got to deal with the mother-in-law. And then, Aunt Judy wants this. So all of a sudden you look at it and you're making like $5 an hour, even though it was a $4,000 job. Whereas, hey, maybe you go do some personal branding photos, it takes you an hour. Do you charge $500? And those people are a little bit easier to work with because they're business owners. Whatever the business model is that you go for, photographers are no different than other business. We say yes to everything because we know we can do it. But should you be doing that? And what I find is when you niche down and you just become the personal branding expert, you can charge a lot more. You deal with your ideal customer, and then you don't have to worry about the family portraits or doing the birthday parties or doing the weddings because, hey, this is what I'm an expert in. And then it attracts your ideal customer and repels everybody else instead of being like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And then you're just chasing your tail. You don't have the right thing. The customer's a pain. So I see that every day. And when we can break it down to the numbers, the business owners usually like, oh, okay, well, then let's stop doing weddings.
Yeah. So what niche are you working with right now? What type of businesses are you working with?
So I really focus on any service-based business that provides, usually I would say 95% of my clients, they are providing a service to their local community. So photographers, accountants, I'm a partner in a landscaping business, marketing companies, anybody that's really good at a service, they're serving their local market, they're building a brand, they're doing all those things. And they just need help, really scaling their business. They need accountability because they don't have a boss. And we don't have a boss. It's very easy to make excuses in our head of why we're not going to do something. So that's really who I love working with, someone who provides a really great service and they just need help figuring out all the back end business stuff that they didn't sign up for.
And what do you find are the most challenging for them?
Yeah, so I would say the most challenging, kind of go back to what we talked about. One is the numbers, but then two is kind of how do we handle all these operational things? Because when I started, I could do everything. My phone rang once a day. I could do a couple of emails.
Yeah.
I could go take pictures. But then all of a sudden, most business owners, and I was the same way, and still the same way, we feel like we're on an island and we're the only one fighting these fires and fighting these battles. So we don't surround ourselves with other people that are doing the same thing. So we feel isolated. We feel like, I don't know how to do this, but I should know how to do it because I'm a business owner and I quit my job and I'm an entrepreneur and I can figure it out. So they start fighting those internal battles. And, I tell everybody it's okay to ask for help. Usually they wait too long to ask for help until it's like a 5-alarm fire. But they've known something's been wrong all along. They just couldn't put their finger on it because they're so far into the business. So that's what I see is usually the biggest problem is I'm an expert in the service I provide, but I don't really know what I should be doing with my financials or how much I should be charging or what kind of system should I set up or all those things that start to consume us because as our business grows, that stuff grows. And then we find ourselves doing it after 5 o'clock, before 9 a.m. Then we got to go deliver the service. And then it's like, oh gosh, I got to call people back. So really helping them streamline that and leverage their expertise.
So after you consult with them and they've faced their fears and they've looked at their mindset and changed it, what do you find that is most successful? Like after you've done everything, how do you see them being successful afterwards? Do they start growing in revenue? Do they start growing in assets? Does their capital start growing? What is the top thing that you would say starts growing as soon as you start helping them and they've changed their mindset as to I'm going to start building my business?
Yeah. I mean, I would say to be honest, because when we're business owners, it's such a huge part of our life. I mean, it impacts everything. You have the peace of mind. You can sleep at night knowing, hey, this is a legitimate business. It's not keeping me up 24/7. My phone's not ringing 24/7. So really just that peace of mind and being able to enjoy life, like that goes up exponentially. And then obviously revenue starts to grow and all of a sudden they're comfortable hiring team members. They're comfortable charging more because they're a lot more confident in what they can do. They know they should be charging more, but they're always competing on price because, Abel said he's going to do it for $50. I got to do it for 48. Mm-hmm. That's not a game to play when you really niche down and you really got your, systems, processes, people in place. Then you can charge more because you can deliver on it. And I think that's part of it is we're not totally confident we can deliver on that because we got all these balls in the air and I feel like I'm scattered. So I'm just going to kind of hang out here in the middle ground. But when you raise your prices, someone told me it's like going to ask the hottest person in high school out on a date. Well, nobody else is doing that. So when you get to that level, it's actually pretty easy because they're probably going to say yes because it's like, oh, no one else even wants to do business with me. So you can really set yourself apart from everybody else because you become the premier person, charging more, you feel better, your clients get better results, whatever it is, because they're getting what they paid for. The the whole value perception. So, it's really a whole thing, but I think at the end of the day, it's the peace of mind knowing, hey, my family's good, I'm good, I've got teammates involved, and I'm building this business with other people. And it makes it a lot more fun. So you don't feel like you're just doing it all by yourself and fighting all these internal battles.
Absolutely. I mean, that makes perfect sense. You think about it, you're doing all these things because you want to be happy, you want to be more independent, and you don't want to be locked down into 15, 16-hour days when you can just outsource that stuff, or, you're there to make money, yes, but you don't need to get it to the point to where you're missing out on so much because of it. There's stress, there's health, and there's all these other things that you got to think about. You want to scale your business. The more you do, the more you can outsource, the more volume you can create, the better your business overall. I can totally see that. It's great. Is there any kind of rules that you live by? Something that you've passed on to your kids, or you would say that some rules that you live by?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably the biggest one has kind of followed me when I quit my job, when I started hiring. The worst case scenario is never as bad as we think it's going to be. So, we all played in our mind, well, if this happens, the weather, it's just going to be a dumpster fire. And it never happens that way because we as humans are pretty resilient. We figure it out. It's not the end of the world. So, that's probably one thing. And then I think the other thing as you build a team and even just have customers is having the empathy. I think empathy is so huge. And a lot of times it's forgotten, especially when the markets are really good, because anybody can stay busy. So it's like, I don't need to return that phone call. I'm already busy enough. I don't have time for it. So treating others the way you want to be treated. So really just over delivering on that customer experience, on the employee experience. So that way you do become the premier, organization. And I tell everybody that whatever service that you provide, if you're in the creative space, especially if you're a photographer, there's millions of people out there. The service you provide is a commodity. How you deliver it is what's going to set you apart. So how do you show that you care? How do you, go above and beyond? And it doesn't cost any money, whether it's just picking up the phone and checking in, or confirming an appointment, or returning phone calls, sending a thank you note, whatever it is. Like, they're like, oh, that's pretty nice. No one's ever done that before. So, I would say those are probably the two biggest ones, is having the empathy, just following the golden rule. And the other one is, the worst case scenario is never as bad as you think it's going to be.
Well, that's great advice, Ben. How can our listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I do have a podcast of my own. So obviously, if they're listening to this, they have a podcast. They listen to podcasts. So my podcast is called the Business Owners Freedom Formula Show. So we focus all about, really achieving our ideal view of ultimate freedom and how do we build a business to do that. And then if anybody wanted to reach out to me directly, if you just go to paulmaskill.com/mastermind. So I run a mastermind for small business owners, like kind of just recapping everything that we talked about. Mm-hmm. Business ownership's a lonely world, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm really working with people to automate, scale their business while doing it with other business owners in the room. So each mastermind, the max is 10 people. So really, diving deep, building those legit, strong relationships to help people to get to where they want to go. And, it's all about having a mentor, having a plan, and having accountability. If you have those three things in anything, in my opinion, with that clear vision, you can do whatever you want. So that's really what we focus on. So if you go to paulmaskill.com/mastermind, learn more, fill out the application, and then I'd reach out and we'll set up a time to chat.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. Paul Maskill, it was a pleasure having you on the show. You're an inspiration to me and our listeners. I'm so happy to have had you on the show today.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There you go, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Go to thecreativeentrepreneur.net. And until next week, keep on keeping on.
Thank you for listening to The Creative Entrepreneur. Please click the show notes for additional information. Want to know more? Click on the subscribe button and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by visiting us at tcepodcast.net.